Parag Khanna is a senior research fellow at the New America Foundation and author of the book How to Run the World, Charting a Course to the Next Renaissance. And he's live for us in New York. And we just heard about the crackdown there on NGOs. Of course, we've been reporting on the crackdown on journalists. One has to wonder why Mubarak is cracking down in this way when it's only going to bring him more international condemnation.
I think, of course, his tactics and his motivations are very short-term, and that's to limit the amount of exposure to what he's doing, to what the regime is doing, to try to basically suppress the immediate revolution that's taking place in the streets, with little concern for the longer-term implications of that. At this point, of course, now Washington has started to ever so slowly move in the direction of where the public opinion seems to have been, global public opinion for sure, which is that Mubarak needs to step aside sooner rather than later. This is only going to add fuel to that fire, to that movement to try and get him out sooner. It seems, of course, that the dialogue is now inching in that direction. But, of course, Washington has not done itself any favors by being very slow to catch that drift, really.
Absolutely. It seems to be consistently behind the curve. Why is it so out of touch?
Well, that's a very good question that one could ask with respect to many other situations around the world as well. There's one answer is, of course, that they have tended to want to just have one person that they can call on the phone and assume that that person's voice represents the country, and that's no longer the case. And we've seen that, of course, with Pervez Musharraf in Pakistan as well and other places. The goal should be to move beyond this tension and duality between the people and the government, and this is a rare opportunity to actually get that right. So, I mean, I think there's still hope for Washington to get it right and to side with the people, but they are quite slow. They fear chaos. There's a lot of ambivalence. There's a lot of ignorance, in fact, as to what the groundswell of forces, what the opposition actually represents. Of course, they have their inhibitions about dialogue with the groups like the Muslim Brotherhood and so forth, which they've carried for years. And now they have to realize that as societies democratize, it means that you really do have to have friends and make allies across the entire political spectrum. So I hope that, if nothing else, this is going to be a very salient learning experience for Washington.
Do you think that Washington is somewhat justified in being fearful of a post-Mubarak era?
I don't think they should be necessarily, because for one thing, as I think most people have been commenting, I don't think that whatever political order or political system comes next could be worse as such in terms of its ability to deliver benefits and welfare to the people of the country. So on that score, I don't think there's anything to fear. The next regime is going to really face a tremendous amount of pressure in terms of political accountability, delivery to the people, responding to the demands of the international community. It's going to be in a position of weakness given what's happening with the economy. So it's going to have to be responsive in ways the Mubarak regime certainly has not been for a very long time. So I think that, if anything, even though we're moving into an uncertain period, it should certainly be one in which the building blocks of better governance start to take shape. And again, I think that's something to be welcomed and embraced.
Indeed, and we could see foreign policy changes throughout the Middle East.
Yes, of course, there will be changes. There will be changes, of course, in the ways in which the Egyptian government and its stance towards Israel, for example. There could be any number of changes. But the thing is that this next generation, this new Arabist potential that I've been writing about, which argues that rather than the old stale Arabism built on false socialist nationalistic pretensions, is much more about embracing globalization, having a lot more integration across the Arab world in terms of migration, media, the Al Jazeera effect in many ways. That is something that the younger generation really embodies, and that's something that again should be welcome, because it represents a force of progress. And remember, of course, as everyone knows, most of the population of the region is under the age of 30, under the age of 25 even. And so, for them, it's time to create a whole new system. And their push for accountability right now is incredibly genuine. We don't know exactly what kind of democracy or what kind of political structure we're going to see. We're talking about constitutional changes, but it is most certainly going to be one that is more accountable. And that's the key word here. This is an accountability revolution.
Interesting times indeed. Parag Khanna, thank you very much for joining us there from New York.
Thank you.